right, Mike. Thank you for hopping on here and joining us today. I view you as a guy that has had kind of an interesting story. We briefly, before we got on here, you were talking about New York. So maybe that'd be a good place to start, is early Mikehood of where you're from, why baseball, all that sort of stuff. So let's go ahead and hop in there.
Sure. So grew up in New York City, born in Staten Island, New York. Parents and grandparents are, Brooklynites, and my parents got married. They moved to Staten Island where they can have a house and more of the residential type of borough, not skyscrapers, but all of the benefits of being in a big city. It was awesome. Great childhood. And I grew up in the 70s, in the early, I was born in 71, so I was young in the 70s, and the Yankees were great. There was a zoo. They called it the Bronx Zoo in New York at that time. Reggie Jackson was leading the Yankees to some World Series titles in 77 and 78, ironically against the Dodgers, who now, my team is affiliated with here in Tulsa. Right. But I became a baseball fan at that age, and my grandfather was a printer. He had a printing company in Manhattan, and back in those days before computerized ticketing and apps and all of that type of stuff, everybody had hard printed tickets. Like a baseball team had, like for drillers here, we have 7,800 seats per game, available.
Sure.
So we would have 69 home games, and we would print 7,800 tickets for 69 home games and stick them in a vault. That's how it was done, and that's how it was done in those days. So he had the contract with the commissioner's office with Major League Baseball to print the postseason tickets.
That's fun.
Yeah, so during that time frame, he was printing the postseason tickets, so he had access to those. And so me and my sister and my family and our relatives, we had opportunities to go to playoff games when I was 6 and 7 years old. So I became like a hooked, Yankees fan, and have been a baseball guy my whole life. So so that's kind of how my pre-10 years old days went.
I love it.
Yeah.
So early on, I love that story. Your grandfather was already deep in, I'm assuming these are like contract bases or something where they had this thing. So you were going to early baseball games, experiencing the buzz. Like I can only imagine what, like during that era of baseball, when baseball was it the top, I would assume it was the top sport in America at the time
it was the pastime more so than it is today, for sure.
Yeah.
And the Yankees were the brand, they always have been the brand. They had all these World Series titles, and they were going through a stalemate period after Mickey Mantle where they were kind of down for about a decade, and they were coming out of that with George Steinbrenner as the new owner. So there was a buzz and there was an excitement. Yankee Stadium had just been renovated, so the crowds were big again, and they were competing for postseason championships against the Red Sox, the hated rival. And so it was a beautiful time, it was easy for me to get hooked as a fan as it was for so many kids my age.
That was your childhood, going to these games, going to these playoffs.
Watching them every night on television.
Yeah. So let's keep on going here. So you're getting to a place of like, you've already been indoctrinated at this point in time. You've already been like foregone conclusion that you love baseball. We could even skip to Syracuse. You mentioned Syracuse, where you went to school. Let's go there. So you graduated on Staten Island, like you guys are staying put, and then Syracuse. Let's go there. College life. What was that for you?
Exactly. It was awesome. It was about 4 hours away from home, and at the time I was playing in a band. I was a musician. My dad was a musician, so all of my buddies were inspired to play music. So we all ended up starting to pick up instruments. He taught me and my best friends how to play, and then we started like a metal band, and we played, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest songs, and had just the greatest time doing that.
What instrument did you play?
I played bass. My dad was a bassist. That's what he did. So I kind of did his thing.
Okay.
And
how long did that last?
Probably from like about 7th grade until I was probably like a sophomore in college, and then I realized I'm like, guys, I'm like at college. I can't be like here for you. You need to get a new bass player, so I'm out, type of thing. So it was great. So that's what we spent our high school years doing. It was a lot of sports and a lot of music and a lot of concerts and doing that type of thing.
That's awesome.
Then it was college time, and it's totally different now. I got 2 girls. I got one that's a sophomore in college, and I got one that's a senior. But back in those days, it's like I had an older sister. I'm like, hey, sis, where should I apply? Oh, yeah, apply to this one, that one, and this one. Okay, great. I applied to those, and I just went to one of those schools.
Okay.
Now it's like, let's go visit like 400 schools. And I mean, it's much more complicated now as a parent than it was as a kid. I just
Sure.
It's like, okay, whatever. Syracuse turned out to be a great call.
Yeah,
Loved it.
yeah.
Went up there, had a great time, kind of furthered my enjoyment of sports into the college realm. I didn't even know anything about college sports in New York City. I mean, really, other than St. John's, nobody paid attention to it. But we had a great time up in Syracuse, and did marketing at business school management up there.
Yeah.
And when it came time to start figuring out what the hell I'm going to do after college,
Right.
it was like, why don't I just go ahead and apply for internships at every minor league and major league team
cool.
and see what's up.
Yeah.
So I went down to the library at Syracuse. I got, the book,
Senior
created
year,
a spreadsheet.
were you like
it was
in
probably
this-
junior year,
Okay,
that time frame,
Okay, okay.
going into senior year.
Yeah.
I wrote letters and I sent them to like probably 100 teams, I barely excluded anybody. I started getting all these responses. No, we don't have anything. Sorry, thanks for your interest. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like the letterhead has this logo on it. And I saw like I was enamored and smitten with the idea of, like what's behind the envelope, And I got several interviews and I got an internship in Erie, Pennsylvania the summer right after I graduated.
Oh, wow.
And it was the best, had like no responsibility. I was literally just graduated college. I was in a league that was mostly filled with players that had just gone through the draft, so they were the same age.
Okay.
So, I was
cool.
peer level with the players at that time, and it was fun. I had no responsibilities. After games, we were just going out drinking beers,
Sure.
Continuing my college days, essentially. It's like, okay, this
Yeah,
is a career
yeah.
that I want to do.
So you were in marketing, but obviously you gravitated towards baseball. You gravitated towards sports specifically. So you're at this team. You're in marketing, I'm assuming. You're intern.
It
What
was
were you-
like, it was split. We had
Okay.
4 interns, and you did a quarter of the year in 4 different disciplines. So like
Okay.
a quarter of it was in, I think we did public relations,
you were
which
able
was
to
like
touch
stats.
all these different. Okay.
Yeah, food and
okay, okay.
beverage, groundskeeping, because
Okay.
I needed the cheap labor, and then whatever, I can't even remember what else. It was tickets, I think.
Okay,
So
okay.
basically, we spent a quarter, and then we would just shift. Okay, now we switch, and I'm going into tickets, and you're going into grounds. And so we really built a great camaraderie, and it
That's
was
cool.
fun to kind of get a taste of some different departments. It
Mm-hmm.
was a super small operation. Our whole front office was smaller than the room that we're in right now. You know what I mean?
That's
type
awesome.
of thing. But
Yeah.
it was killer, and we
Yeah.
had so much fun that when the season was over and the internships ended, the interns, we all decided we were going to drive down to the baseball winter meetings that year, the annual convention. All the major league, minor league teams are together in the same space.
Right.
And it was in Atlanta, and we hopped in a car and we all drove down to Atlanta, and we all interviewed, and we all got jobs all over the freaking country. Everybody went different.
And you just got
I ended up in
over?
Tulsa.
Yeah.
My girlfriend at the time, my wife now. Like, hey, honey, I just got this offer from Tulsa. I said, what? Who? Where?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, they're decorated. They just won these awards. Everybody's telling me great things about Tulsa. I think I want to do this job. All right, we'll go there for a year or two. 30 years
Here we
later,
are.
here we are, baby.
Here we
Yeah.
are.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a lot of questions here. I think it's very interesting. So after the internship, or you said you went to Atlanta. You basically had access to a lot of different teams, a lot of different ball clubs doing a lot of different things. Tulsa, man. Did you visit Tulsa at the time? Did you know anything about Tulsa?
Zero. Knew nothing.
And what was that first job? What were they hiring you for?
Food and beverage.
Okay,
Yeah, so
okay.
I got a job in food and beverage, and
What like management of food and beverage?
yeah,
what
like
was that?
it was a paid internship.
Okay.
Still, it wasn't a guaranteed full-time type of position.
Okay.
And so it was a little bit of a leap of faith to move halfway across the country to
What
come
year
out
was
here.
this?
This is 94.
94. What was the state? Like, what was the drillers in 94? You walk in, like, what are some early driller?
impressions.
Yeah, early driller stuff.
Early impressions. So I get there. My first day is January 2nd, 1994. We roll in on like December 29th. So we get into town. We know nobody. We go and celebrate New Year's. We're young, so
Yeah.
we're finding a way to
Sure,
go party on New Year's.
sure,
we
sure.
do that. I show up to work on the 2nd. The first thing I noticed when they sit me down at a desk and I'm looking at like the pocket schedule, I see that we're playing like OU and OSU. We have a college game, a college baseball. What the heck
Yeah.
is
Well,
college?
what are you doing
Like,
here? Yeah.
that's just a dog. We're just hooking those teams up, type of thing. No, Mike, that's like the biggest game of the year. And then the Bedlam. I got introduced to Bedlam my first day there because I was like, what is this on the calendar? So anyway, that was kind of cool.
Okay.
Driller Stadium was at 15th and Yale. Totally different
Sure.
environment,
Sure.
near a neighborhood on the fairgrounds. Totally different vibe than what we have downtown now. And basically the ballpark was an erector set. It was a huge stadium. It was built to watch games. It was not thought about, like fan experience was really
Sure.
not the motivating factor when you built stadiums back
Okay.
in those days. So it was a pretty plain Jane stadium, but we had just done several renovations. Our owner, Went Hubbard at the time, had put a lot of money in the stadium. We had expanded it. It was the largest stadium in AA baseball, so it was cavernous, had over almost 11,000 seats.
11,000 seats.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that big.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
And just the year before, in '93, they converted it from artificial turf to grass. Okay. So we were on an upward trajectory at that particular point. In the '80s, they were drawing 50, 60,000 people a year. And then into the early '90s, when Went took over, it started slowly growing. And it got to the point where we were drawing over 300,000. And that's what we maintained.
Yeah,
So Tulsa was very well thought of at that time as an organization that was on the rise, drawing well, leading the league in attendance. So I felt like I was coming to a winner. And there was a really good confidence in the front office.
Food and beverage. You got in here and you were slinging dogs. Like, give me some early, like that first year. Like what?
Dude,
what was...
listen to this. So the first game ever for me,
Okay.
my first game.
Okay.
I went for a team in Erie, Pennsylvania, right? For the whole season, we probably drew 20,000 people. I mean, it was a small, little
Very
mom
small
and pop,
market.
kitschy
Okay.
kind of stadium, old stadium. Like Babe Ruth had played in that stadium. It was a dump.
Okay.
The visiting team didn't shower there because the locker rooms were so bad. It was truly like Bull Durham-esque.
Okay.
It was really quintessential minor league baseball.
Yeah.
Here was a much nicer situation. So the first game, back in those days, we used to give away free tickets for opening night to our sponsors as a thank you and to just start the season off with a bang. It was like a Thursday night. And we distributed an inordinate amount of tickets, because you're like, we'll get 2 or 3% redemption or whatever on this thing. So there's tickets everywhere, Quick Trips, at the grocery stores, all over the place. That night, perfect weather. Absolute perfection. It is like 73 degrees on like April 5th or whatever it is, and the stars have aligned. We ended up with over 16,000 people in the stadium.
Cow.
They were coming in, and we were turning them away at that point.
Standing room. I didn't know if you, okay.
we put people on the field. So my very first game with the Drillers, we had to get approval from the league office, and we put like 2,000 people on the field. Yeah, we cornered off from center field over to the right field foul line. I'm in food and beverage, right? So my boss is like, Mike, we're going to put people on the field. They just told me we got to get vendors down there. So we were sending beer vendors, peanut vendors, cotton candy on the field. People could smoke in the stadium. People are smoking butts. Like after it was over, it was like the place had been trampled. There's just cigarette butts, beers, cans, and soda everywhere.
Sure.
And so that was my first night. It was just mayhem,
and it was electric
absolute
at that point
mayhem.
in time. And you're like, I made the right decision.
Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah. This is wild coming from that small market. Like this is in like was that a common, like that doesn't sound very common to put people on the field.
No. First and only time ever in my years with Tulsa. So I mean, like maybe that happened, I don't know, maybe a dozen times in history, and we just happened to be there one time that night. So I'm running around changing kegs, learning how to swap out bag in the box from Pepsi. Like I've never. I mean, like this is like a lot of it's all new to me.
Yeah.
And but it was awesome. I just remember going into my boss afterwards that night. I mean, I probably dropped like 5 pounds running around that night. And I'm like, is it like this every night, sir? Type of thing. And he's like, no.
Help
he's
me.
like, no, this is historic. You know what I mean? So still to this day, I mean, we'll never top it. That was the largest in Drillers franchise history. Wow. It'll never be bigger than that.
Was there pictures of this?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely. There's got to be pictures. Not like there is today, but there's definitely
Sure.
pictures out there.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So how long were you in food and beverage?
So I got hired after that first season and became food and beverage manager, and then I was director of food and beverage. And then I oversaw food and beverage for a while. But they wanted to keep me. I was pretty successful in sales, and that like in any business, if you can generate revenue, they want to hold on to you, right?
Sure.
And so I was able to kind of let them know, hey, listen, I want to get into marketing, I want to get into promotions, I want to get into these other areas, and went and leadership at that time they facilitated that, and that's the reason I'm here. They just every time it was time for me to move on, they made it interesting to stay, and I'm thankful for it. Yeah, it's been a great career.
So you had a knack. It sounds like you did marketing, enjoyed marketing. What aspect of marketing did you really enjoy? Or do you enjoy?
Oh, I mean, I just love the creative part of it. I mean, like I'm always impressed with you because you're always coming up with these outlandish types of things. That's what minor league baseball is based on, is coming up with goofy ideas, and we're enabled to be kids in the playground.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's why this industry is just the best.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we celebrate our players. There's no question the talent that we get to see here every day. I mean, we got Hall of Famers that played for us. We've got the Dodgers had 50% of their World Series roster was made of guys that wore Tulsa on the front of their uniform. So the caliber of play can't be touched.
Right.
But But the thing that makes it great is we don't take ourselves seriously and we have fun. And honestly, truly, like every idea is worth consideration. It can't be that too outlandish. You know?
So you were done with food and beverage, or you basically hit the cap of where you were in management of food and beverage. And then what was the next step within the Drillers
The next
ecosystem?
step was promotions, was director of promotions. I kind of moved into that, and group sales. I think those were, and back in those days, we only had, 9 or 10 maybe full-time staff members.
Okay.
So
that's a small team.
It was small. I mean, and that was the way it was in minor league baseball, because we gave away the tickets, you know, so we didn't, a lot of the tickets. So, the revenues weren't there to really justify.
Let's pause there, because I find that very interesting. You weren't selling tickets. You were giving them all away. Most of your revenue, merch, hot dogs, beers, like where was a lot of that early revenue? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like
the streams were the same. The revenue streams were still the same. I mean, there were tickets and food and beverage and merchandise. I mean, are your three main, and sponsorships. Those are your four main streams. Now, we sabotaged the ticket stream because we gave away tickets a lot and looked at ourselves as a food and beverage company. Like, we want to get them in here, we want to sell them food. The problem was the stadium was built for 5,000 seats, and now we had 11. So the concessions were built for 5,000 seats, and we maybe adjusted the concessions to accommodate 5,500 seats.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So when we gave out those free tickets and had 10,000 people in the stadium, we just got slaughtered. So the idea was get them in, and we'll sell them hot dogs and beer, and then but we realized we couldn't do it efficiently. So it hurt us, but it was one of those situations you got into it and you got too far into it and you had to rely on it and you couldn't get out of that. So we devalued our ticket, and we did not reach a ceiling that we could have reached, probably because we became dependent on giving away free tickets twice a month, three times a month. And Tuesday nights were like our biggest night of the year because those were the nights we did these free tickets.
Got it.
Moving downtown to One Oak Field is the reset that we were able to do, and say,
makes
listen,
sense.
we're providing a lot of value. We're giving
it makes
people
sense.
$15, $20 hats for free when they come in the door. We're doing quarter hot dog nights. We're shooting fireworks off. I mean, we're providing all this value, and then people are calling and saying, hey, where are the free tickets available? It's Friday night. We don't offer free tickets on that. They're like, okay, well, we'll come on Tuesday when the free tickets are there. Damn.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, so we had to work our way out of that.
I want to touch on sales. I always find it interesting. Every organization, every business, you need an element of sales. You do.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Why did you latch on? Why was sales so easy for you? Why did you find it? Were you just a personal guy, like could relate to a lot of different people, and then it was just an easy segue into like, well, here, buy this or sponsor that? Or
well, it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't easy. I wouldn't say that, but I'm a BSer, you know what I mean? Like, I can talk to anybody and have a conversation, and I think that suited me, well. And I was competitive, and you got to be competitive in sales, you know, especially when you've got peers in sales that are with you. You want to outsell them, you know. And of course, so I had that. I was motivated in that way,
right?
And when I was a New York guy, and back then I probably had a pretty thick New York accent, and I was novel. I think people were like, dude, this is a young little New York guy. I love that guy. You know what I mean? He's full of it, but I love him.
You still have some of that. I definitely recognize. Is there any tactical, I'm going to get in the weeds here just for 2 seconds, technical things that you learned that you maybe taught others? Of like, hey, if you get in this situation, on the sales side, like, is there any tactile things that you say, you know what, I saw a huge amount of success in doing this or this approach. Do you have anything there?
Yeah, I mean, and we've had great sales trainers over the years, so you pick up little bits and pieces here and there, and you just keep adding it to your snowball, and the snowball keeps getting bigger as it rolls down. I mean, that type of thing. But, I think the thing that we really preach here is it's relationships. It's all about relationships. The people that spend money with us, it's, that sponsor us, that help us do the fun things that we do are so valuable. You've got to build relationships. So the whole thing needs to be 75% conversation and 10 or 20% business. You know what I mean? Like, you really need to, you can't go in and tell people what you want them to buy. You need to listen, and you need to have a conversation, and you need to develop a relationship that's long lasting. Because they always have a choice. I mean, I was buying advertising for the Drillers for a long, long time. I don't do that anymore, but I did that for a long time.
What year were you doing that? Because I have some questions about outdoor. Where was the best ROI? What year was that?
It was probably probably 5 years, probably 98, 99 was when I started doing that, and I was probably overseeing that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years at least,
wow.
in that time frame.
What did you say that did really well? Was it billboards at the time? Was it print? Were you in magazines?
Newspaper was actually huge then.
Really?
Newspaper
World.
hadn't dropped yet, so the World was our biggest place. When the digital outdoor came out, that was great. The boards were not huge for us because we're an event-driven organization, which you can relate to.
Sure.
So we need quick hitters. We need to be able to say, hey, Thursday night is Thirsty Thursday, and Friday night is fireworks, and Saturday night we're giving away jerseys.
It's all this, yeah.
Right, so you got to get those things in quick because what you're trying to do is a call to action. And you couldn't do a call to action on a static billboard back in those days. Plus, they were like $14,000, which was like my whole budget, type of thing. So we loved sponsoring. Like when I was doing, I remember we loved sponsoring the quick hitters, like the traffic reports or the weather reports on the radio, where they would just tag us at the end. Hey, the drillers are home this weekend, and then boom, boom, boom. Here's what they're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that was valuable to us.
Was there any guerrilla marketing that you did at that time, like kind of like down in the dirt type of stuff that was just fun that you saw? Like, wow, people are really noticing us because of this weird thing that we did.
I wouldn't say we were doing quirky, crazy stuff back then. I think our owner at the time was a little bit more conservative on those types of things. But I mean, we were very much guerrilla marketers in the sense that we had an army of ushers and old dudes with armed with drillers hats and drillers jackets out hitting the streets all year round, delivering pocket schedules and putting them out at every business. So I mean, we were canvassing, we were door to door, and everybody had a pocket schedule in their car or in their back pocket or in their wallet, and that was really truly our number one source. When we would do market research and surveys, how did you find out about the drillers game? The pocket schedule was numero uno, and now obviously that is shifted into the app or the
digital
website or
sure.
That's where we find those types of things. But it's still the same. I mean, we're still event driven, and it's all about how can we most efficiently reach the most eyeballs to let people know that the drillers are back in town next week, and what do we have going on? Because that's what drives the decision from people. They're like, oh, I've got a young family. Oh, on Sunday the kids run the bases, and we do Kids Eat Free, and they're giving away some gift for kids 12 and under.
Right.
That's where they're going to gravitate to. You, when you were in your 20s, it's like, oh, what's going on Thursday night? I'm going there for dollar beers at Driller Stadium.
Right.
So we just had to be targeted and efficient because we didn't have a lot of money to work with either.
I love it. I want to talk about, you mentioned earlier, I really want to get kind of deep into the transition from 15th and Yale to downtown. Early conversations, why, it sounds like there was a renovation in the 90s, late 90s of now, concessions can't keep up. You're busting at the seams. You guys are just running and gunning. Why the decision to move downtown? Why did ownership determine, hey, this is a great reset. This is a great way for us to say, hey, you know what? We're going to do this differently. We're going to do it maybe a better way or the evolved way. Talk me through some of those early conversations of why that made sense for you, why exactly where we're sitting today, why this location made sense.
Well, you had to do it. I mean, that was, I always tell people, that was a 20th century ballpark, and a 20th century ballpark was one that was built to watch baseball at, okay? And things were evolving, and that's what it was all about. Camden Yards had just been built in the mid-90s in Major League Baseball, and that kind of flipped it into major league level, and it became all about this 360-degree concourse instead of like getting to the foul pole and then you're at a dead end and then you turn around, right? So you think about it, every stadium in the 20th century was built foul pole to foul pole, and you only had 180 degrees of that ballpark developed for fan interaction and amenities. Fans could only watch the game looking out towards the outfield or in towards home plate. And then Camden Yards and stadiums like that got built, and they just made them all the way around. So you can circulate, walk all the way around. So think now you've doubled your space to create activity for fans.
Engagement.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be all about baseball. Baseball has always had that kind of like, it's slow, it's boring. Those are the knocks against baseball, right? Sure. Right. So you had to be more than baseball to really sustain and live longer.
Right.
So we needed to get there. The problem was, I think we had done a very good job of taking care of that ballpark, even though it was in disrepair. People didn't know. And we had them all conned into thinking it was one of the best ballparks in the country and how lucky we were to have Driller Stadium.
Sure.
When behind the scenes, we're like wrapping the old duct tape around stuff and, and realizing we don't have any storage and we don't have any place to, what do fans do? And they leave to go and get a soda. They completely disconnect from the game. You know what I mean? We needed something new. So anyway, we approached that a few times, Hubbard did, our GM at the time, Chuck Lamson, they did, fell on deaf ears, didn't go anywhere. Then left, and Chuck took a more advanced role, and then some developers came and approached us that were season ticket holders about Jinx as a possibility. They were going to build out where the outlet mall is going now. They were going to build out. They bought that property, and they were going to make a huge development. They wanted the ballpark to be kind of the centerpiece. Okay, yeah, we're interested in that. So they pursued that a little bit, and Chuck signed a letter of intent to work with them and see that thing through. And I think that's when the city of Tulsa, the light bulb went off. Wait a minute, we can't have that.
Yeah.
And then the engagement happened, and we never wanted to leave. There's no question. We never wanted to leave. Even, if it was Jinx or whatever. Like leaving the city of Tulsa, it was never really in the cards, but it was the catalyst, I think, to get the conversations happening here. So then we had the conversations here, and Chuck and I went out and we visited all these new ballparks, and we made a wish list of all the things we wanted to see in this stadium. It was happening. Mayor Taylor just did an amazing job. To this day, she's the queen to me because she figured this stuff out in a very short period of time when she was mayor.
Right.
That we are all enjoying the fruits of her efforts for whether it was what she did with City Hall or what she did with getting this ballpark, what she did with finishing off the BOK Center, which was already in process before she got elected, but turning it into first class. She was a rock star about all of that stuff. And we looked at a bunch of different locations that the city was considering, and we thought this was too small. We weren't sure that this was going to be a big enough footprint for us to do all the things that we wanted to do. But Populous, who was the architects for it, they were like, no problem. We just built Minnesota for the Twins. We just built their ballpark, and it was only like an acre or an acre and a half larger footprint than what you've got, and they got 35,000 seats. No problem. Don't worry about that. Okay, so we got over that, and this has just been perfect.
Yeah.
We absolutely love it. Every day coming downtown, watching the development, meeting people like you.
Right.
That the entrepreneurial spirit that we're surrounded by every day is a lot better than the dentist across the street, the Walgreens, which is like a Homeland grocery store, and a Lowe's. You know what I mean? Those aren't the places you go to for a night out with the Drillers. Now you go to a bar or a brewery or a restaurant, and then you go out for drinks after a game, and it's a night.
I love that. I went to that old stadium several times growing up and really enjoyed my time there. It was interesting. I would like to talk about maybe outside of baseball, these stadiums, obviously, they're a great venue for other events, other things that are happening. And I recall Garth Brooks being in that stadium. I don't know how many, you probably know that, how many times Garth played and participated. Outside of baseball, this stadium, 15th and Yale Stadium, how much, just out of curiosity, like how much do you guys strive to pull in other events outside of like the typical season that you have for the Driller Stadium? Let's talk about other bigger events that happen.
Yeah, so obviously we love to do more and more events, and we're one of the busiest venues, I think, in minor league baseball, in the sense that, we brought in the soccer team, and now the FC Tulsa guys operate that, and they sublease the stadium from us for those games. So, pretty much from like mid to late March when FC Tulsa starts up, and then through our opening day in early April, through the baseball season, through the conclusion of FC Tulsa, we pretty much have an event in this ballpark every weekend for about 8 months, which is crazy compared to others. Now, having every one of those weekends filled up with baseball and soccer does limit some of our opportunities to have other things like concerts maybe and those types of things, because our prime dates or our weekends are kind of taken. But we've got 2 professional sports teams that the city of Tulsa roots for playing at One Oak Field. There's only about 3 or 4 minor league stadiums that host another professional sports team, whether it's a football type of team or whether it's soccer. So we're in the minority on that. So this venue gets really utilized a lot. Now, the first taste back at the fairgrounds, a lot of times when we had artificial turf, it was easier to do concerts when you had artificial turf. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Grass is,
Sure.
you got to protect it.
Right.
But before I got there, they used to do concerts at the ballpark, so I understand a lot during the fair, and so over the years, I mean, I would hear all these stories by the guys that were there before me,
Sure.
talking about, oh man, we had Hank Williams Jr. and that was a freaking wild scene, and I'm like, oh man, this sounds awesome. So then Garth was a huge baseball guy. I think it was like '97.
Okay.
And he was peaking, at that time. He had become superstardom level, and he wanted to do baseball stadiums. He wanted these more intimate environments. He had gone to spring training, I think, with the San Diego Padres or with the Mets. So he was really into baseball at that particular moment, and this was his hometown. So we were on that list. And so we had 5 nights at Driller Stadium with Garth, and it was amazing. And we had 16,000 a game. They put about 5,000 on the field and 11,000 in the seating bowl. And that was my right in the heart of my food and beverage era.
Yeah. 5 nights, back-to-back concerts. They were sold out every night?
Every night. And so the way he did it was he announced 2 shows, and they sold them, but they were ready to go, and it was hard print tickets, right? So we had these blocks of tickets in our box office, and he was really protective of not letting scalpers getting it, being very fair about the ticket pricing. It was just awesome. I mean, such a stand-up guy. And they sold the first 2 out, and as soon as it was us, Driller Stadium, Ticket Office, and Walmart were the only places that sold the tickets. And so there were people at all of these Walmart locations and at the Drillers. And as soon as it was over, they were on the phones with everybody, like, okay, release show 3. So we were ready to go to 5 shows. And by the end of that first day, we were selling into the 5th night.
Wow.
So he had sold over like 80,000 tickets in the first day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was sick. It was incredible.
That's really cool because, was it this past summer whenever TU hosted?
Oh yeah, Motley Crue.
Motley Crue
Def
coming
Leppard,
through, and that'll. I always find that very interesting. I did not go to Garth. I want to say that I drove by the stadium. I remember looking out the window, whatever. And at the time, I believe it was the big microphones, like the headset microphones. Like I'm having flashbacks of Garth during those times.
Oh yeah,
5 shows. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
and he was the most gracious guy ever. So he stayed on his tour bus, which was parked right on the warning track behind the stage, right at the center field wall. Yeah. He stayed out there. He took batting practice in our batting cage every day, and we were there around the clock getting ready because as you just got slaughtered, and then the next day you had to reboot and be ready to go at 4 p.m. when they started bringing people in.
Right.
So had all of our part-time staff was out there by mid-afternoon, and he's out taking batting practice. He'd come out and sign autographs for all my people. It was amazing. He didn't do anything but leave positive impressions with everybody he came into contact with, and it was just such a remarkable time. So loved that. That was incredible. And we had Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson play out there at that stadium, and we had Counting Crows and Collective Soul and Third Eye Blind out there. And here at this stadium we've had Co Wetzel, and we've had Jack White has played here. So love to do more of those. I told you I was a band. I'm a music guy. I like to spend my money on concerts more than anything else. Concerts and beer. That's what I like to spend my money on.
I love it. So now you're at the top, Mike. You're at the top of this organization. Is there any moment throughout the course of the season, it could be during the time now, of wanting to hop back into F&B, or if wanting to hop back into promotion? Is there any moment? Okay.
Dude, every day.
So,
I love it.
As an entrepreneur, and I would consider yourself kind of in that vein of you have itches, and the office is nice, but sometimes you got to get back down.
That's the job. That's why I never left. I mean, are you kidding me? This is the greatest job in the world because I get to be involved in every department, and I can, kind of.
Where do you find
give
the
some
most,
of my past experience involved?
Where do you find that you spend the most time? What department do you find that you're like, okay, Mike, get out of here. Let us do our job.
Yeah, during the season, definitely food and beverage.
Okay,
there's no question. So yeah, I have got a pretty strong background in that, and when we moved to downtown, we had a third party concessionaire running the show for us, and we weren't thrilled with the way that it was going. We thought we could do it as well, or if not better. So we brought that back in house in 2019. 2015. So that's been a great project. I think over the last 5 years, I think we've made tremendous advancements
Sure.
in what we offer and how we do it and how efficiently we do it. And our team that we have is awesome. So working with them and mentoring them and making them better every day, that lights my fire, on that front. And I don't get as much involved. I think they don't invite me to the marketing meetings because I'm just always riffing on ideas but I do enjoy the promotion side of it, and our guys do an amazing job. Justin Gorski, him and Alex, who runs promotions and merchandise for us. They are very, very in tune with what is working, around minor league baseball, and we're not missing out on it, but we're doing it in a classy way. We're not, going like over the edge like some teams sometimes do. Some of these team names, like, we're not quite there. We're not that kind of organization. But we embrace noodlers, and and we embrace our 918 weekend, and we did Tulsa Sound last year, and we'll have a new alternate identity for this season coming up that we'll announce in the next few months, which we're pumped about. So every year 918 weekend we'll have a new identity. So we'll have a whole 918 collection. So 10 years from now we're going to have 10 hats and 10 uniforms and 10 identities that we've built, and so that keeps the marketing juices flowing, doing that type of stuff, and then the food and beverage side is amazing, and then what we really pride ourselves in here, and this stadium had to be it for us to be sustainable, was it had to be the best place in town for hospitality, for company outings, for group outings, for celebrating whatever organization you're part of, whether it's coming out with your small organization and having a sweet night and saying thanks for all the work that they do for you, or whether it's a huge company like Nordam or St. John Hospital coming out and bringing thousands of people on a night to celebrate and thank them. So this stadium is a showcase for that, and that's really, I think, those are our strong suits.
FC Tulsa being a part of, how long has the soccer team been at Driller Stadium?
Yeah, so I was called by a friend of mine in 2012. Okay, we had only been in this ballpark for 2 years, and a buddy of mine who used to work with the Oklahoma City Baseball Club, he called me. He was now working with the team or the company that was bringing in Oklahoma City Energy FC to OKC. And he said, hey, listen, when we bought this expansion franchise, we negotiated the rights to Tulsa as well, and we're going to look for a partner. And we're like, okay, let us hear more about that, because we didn't want anybody, just coming into our backyard, certainly not an Oklahoma City group coming into our backyard and running a professional sports team in our community. So we stepped up, we raised our hand, and we bought a controlling interest. So basically, we brought this expansion franchise to Tulsa, and the fans voted to give it the traditional soccer name in Tulsa Roughnecks. So we went Tulsa Roughnecks FC. So that built up for a couple of years until 2015. That was our inaugural season with them in 2015, and we ran the team 15, 16, 17, 18, and into 19. And that's when we realized, hey, listen, this is grown. It's too much. We're not doing the fans justice on this, and we need to find an owner that could take it and move it on. And the Crafts came in and they purchased the team at that point, and they're amazing. They've just done a great job with it, and they've put the resources into it that it needs, because it's growing and the expectations were outgrowing what we were able to put into it. So I think we did a good job of handing it off to a group that really has done Tulsa proud with respect to soccer. So we're proud of that, and we want them to be around for 40 or 50 years, just like the Drillers have been around for 40 or 50 years. So we feel like it's in a super stable spot, and that's been positive.
Do you think that the FC, and this is just maybe a personal question, do you think that having soccer in the same stadium as baseball, has that taken away from the Drillers? Or do you think it's just more the merrier at this point?
No, we just led the league in attendance last year for the first time since 1999. So no, we found it very early on that it's a very mutually exclusive audience. It's amazing. That's awesome. The soccer fans are not people coming to the Drillers games regularly, but it exposed them to our ballpark, and they hadn't been here before. And so I think we pick up some from that. And then our fans come to the ballpark, and they'll see the remnants of the lines on the field because FC Tulsa played on Saturday, and we're here on Tuesday, and they start asking about that. I think having them here, is beneficial for both teams, but it certainly is not hurting either of us. I think it's only helping, to be honest with you. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
I have a lot more questions. We're gonna end it up. Mike, anything last minute things that you would like to talk about? Anything on on your plate that you want to endorse, promote, or?
No, I mean,
No?
just coming up. I mean, we're right in the thick of it. It's hard to believe. You come back from Christmas break and we're 90 days out from opening day. So
wild.
it's going to be a big time for
Yeah.
Tulsa sports in early April. I think FC Tulsa opens here at One Oak Field on Friday, April 5th.
Okay.
And then the Tulsa Oilers, the indoor football team, they open at the BOK Center on Saturday, April 6th. And then the Drillers open up. Our home opener is on Tuesday, April 9th. So in the course of about 4 or 5
boom,
days,
boom, boom.
3 of us will be having our opening games.
Here we go.
And the summer and the fun and the warmth will be here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you.